Hello there and welcome to the channel. This is Nerdworld. In today's episode we are looking at the Mirror Universe version of Michael Burnham. In the Mirror Universe there are two different stories, one of which I think is more canonical than the other, but they're technically both canon, so I'm going to look at the bit of the story of, the story of both. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe and comment down below. And again, to tell you, this video is brought to you by my sponsor Relentless Rebels, who we'll talk about in a little while. And with that said, let's get into this video. The Mirror, Michael Burnham, was born on Earth in 2226. Her parents died when she was young. She was, as it was phrased, liberated from the dung heap, picked up from poverty basically by Empress Georgiou. Why she did this, little unclear, but she did. She then doted on her and gave her everything she could ever desire. She was raised in privilege and with wealth and power. She chose to join Starfleet, chose to serve effectively, although Starfleet was often a means to an end within the Terran Empire. She would rise, probably with a little political help from the Empress, to the rank of captain, coming into command of the ISS Shenzhou. She would earn medals for valor and for Master of Poisons. Really curious now how she got that one. She also earned the nickname by both friend and foe as the Butcher of the Binary Stars, where in the Mirror Universe, just like in the Prime Universe, the Terrans had a battle at the Binary Stars. The difference was the Terrans wiped the floor with the Klingons, not the other way around. And probably the old shoot first strategy probably was a much more Terran thing. Georgiou, very proud of her, doted medals on her, treated her like literal princess royalty that she was, but she would later betray her as she had become infatuated with her father figure, someone Georgiou was a little more wary of, Gabriel Lorca. The two eventually became lovers, and when Lorca started a coup against the Empress sent Burnham, thinking her loyal daughter to be the best person to go and apprehend him, She, though unbeknownst to her, switched sides and would betray the Empress. The Empress would then issue a death order on Burnham in 2256. She would die as a result of this. A couple of years later, the Prime Universe Burnham would cross over into the Mirror Universe and impersonate her, but the Empress wouldn't fall for that even for a second. The two characters are very, very different people, and she couldn't hold up the charade long enough, or at least the Empress believed that this certainly was not like her daughter, that it was some kind of ruse, if not immediately thinking she was from the Prime Universe, or the Mirror Universe from the Terran's point of view. That is the main story we know of Michael Burnham in the Mirror Universe, but there is, of course, another story. But before we get to that, I just want to plug my sponsor, Relentless Rebels, who I linked in the description below. They are an online company and they sell Viking-style jewelry and other themed accessories that I think are quite nice. If you follow the link in the description below to their website and use the code NERD20 at checkout, if you find anything you like, you'll get a 20% discount on using that code. Again, that is NERD20, all in capitals, one word. And again, 20% discount. I've bought things from them. Don't know if that's a recommendation for you or not, but if you like it, at least you'll get a discount to find out. So let's just carry on with the video after that little plug, shall we? In what can be considered a slightly divergent timeline from the true timeline in the Mirror Universe, when Georgiou returned to her own universe slightly back in the past before the events that took her into the Prime Universe, she was sent there by the Guardian of Forever. These events show a still living Michael Burnham before her full betrayal aboard the ISS Discovery. Now, Georgiou, knowing that she intends to betray her, takes steps to avert this timeline and tries to save her daughter, because of course she loves her daughter. Terrans may make a lot of noise about being brutal and monstrous, but they still have children, they still get married, they're still human beings, they're just a little more temperamental. Now, she wants to save her daughter, and she manages to, after putting her in an agony booth and torturing her for a while, get her to seemingly come back onto her side. She rats out all of her betrayers, all the other traitors from aboard the Discovery, and elsewhere, and gives them all the comm badges to the Empress. Now, she still turns on the Empress. She makes a play for power, and we learn that Burnham of the Mirror Universe is very impetuous. She was very spoilt, entitled, and, in my opinion, quite unreliable as an officer. She'd clearly achieved her rank through brutality, fear, and other people promoting her because she was the daughter of the Empress, not necessarily out of true power. You can tell this in some of the times in the way she stands, where other officers stand to attention, straight up, eyes front, and basically paying attention to the Empress. Burnham will be slouched, looking in utter contempt as to where she is. She treats people like they are lesser than her because she is the daughter of the Empress. This level of entitlement probably fed her already inflated ego to simply do what she wants to betray Empress Giorgio in the long run. Now, this doesn't work. Eventually, Giorgio, with some pushing from Captain Tilly, will eventually lure Burnham into a trap in one vain last attempt to hope that her daughter can be saved, but ultimately has to kill her, but dies in the process herself. At this moment, Giorgio realizes she can no longer stay in that universe, and there is no real future for her there, and that her daughter, Michael, was truly lost. Her infatuation and relationship with Lorca, not to mention her own personal feelings that she was always in the shadow of her mother, that she was always having to measure up, was never going to be something she could get out of her. That's who she was. She was 30 years old by this point. There was no changing her. That's who she was, and that's who she was forever going to be. She'd just have to live with it. Or not, as the events would actually transpire. Now, those events, although are canonical, they are, again, a divergent timeline. They're not exactly the true timeline of what's going to happen in the Mirror Universe. What actually happened there is probably more likely what happened the first time around, although it is conceivable that those events changed the timeline, and that's the Mirror Universe that we encounter in Kirk's time, not the one where Giorgio was plucked after the destruction of the ISS Sharon. It could, to be honest, it could be either. One could go on to be the so-called Dark Universe, another one could somehow become the Kelvin Universe of the Mirror Universe, which does exist, and another one could be the one we know from Kirk and Cisco and the others going there. Who knows? Could be any of them. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey, as another franchise would put it. Now, with that all said, we're at the end of this video. I think Michael Burnham was a pretty decent character in the Mirror Universe. People say a lot of things, negative things about Discovery generally, but I really enjoyed all the Mirror Universe episodes. And although I think she was something of a cliched villain, a little over the top, I do like the character. I think she played an important role in the story, but I do like in those episodes that she wasn't the main focus. But she certainly had a place. I do just think that I did look at her and I sometimes thought an officer like that would not have survived in Starfleet without the protection of the Emperor. She'd have been killed. She was so arrogant, so entitled, and so aggressive that she would have had someone stab her in her sleep, being Terrence. Terrans still had to play a political game to stay in command of their ships and keep their position within Starfleet. You couldn't just relentlessly be aggressive. Even Kirk couldn't get away with it forever, and he had the Tantalus field to help him. If he hadn't have had that, his crew would have lynched him a long time ago with his basically malicious behaviour towards them all. You've still got to treat people with some level of respect in order to ingratiate them to you, in order to get them to follow you, to obey orders. Because eventually they're going to stop. Even your commanding officers are going to get sick of it. And Burnham's an example of, basically, she went down the road of being really only powerful because she was the daughter of the Empress. Not because she was a particularly competent or skilled officer. Certainly an outstandingly good fighter, who earned the respect of both her enemies and her allies. But from a Starfleet point of view, she probably wasn't going to be a survivor, because she never would have got to captain on her own. She wasn't disciplined enough, wasn't loyal enough. Not to her followers, not to her commanders, not to her Empress. But that's the version of her we see from that divergent timeline. Now, they're probably exactly the same, but who's to say? Now, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you liked the Mirror Universe stuff from Star Trek Discovery. Feel free to share your opinions on what you actually think of the show itself. I have my opinions, but they're mine, they're not really relevant to this video. but I don't overly mind it. But anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.